And welcome everybody to episode 28 of the Scenic City Sports Podcast, brought to you by all of our all-star sponsors, the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance, the Chattanooga Flower Market, Payne Mortgage Team, and Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga. These are the folks that make it possible for us to bring the podcast to you guys every week. Make sure you go out when you're out and about, or when you are choosing who to give your business to, give them to the people who make sure that they take care of us here at Scenic City Sports, and we try to take care of them in return. Rusty and Rob joining you guys on this Sunday evening. Scott's not with us tonight. He is out in the great out west, I suppose, at this point. They were on their way out that way. So
hunting for gold?
He might be. You never know with them. I mean, they are a traveling bunch. You know, a few years ago they went all the way out to California and drove Route 66 all the way back home. So they do enjoy that.
You can take 66 all the way back home.
You can take 66 all the way to like Chicago, and then you have to come back down this way. But you know, they did that a few years ago. Scott always laughs and jokes that one of these days when he is old and gray, that he is going to, how is it he says, he's going to wind up buying one of those old hotels out there, and he wants to renovate it and run it. Like, you know, if you've ever seen the movie Cars, the cozy cone that Sally, the little Porsche that she has, you know, Scott always says that he wants one of those old hotels.
To take one of those efficiency type hotels, one level. You're going to have about 15 customers. I was going to say maybe 15, 20 rooms. But that may be something that if we want to go, we need to book our rate in
way ahead of time.
Because, you know, he's going to get out there and it might be successful. Before we know it, we go to book a room and it's $838 a night, and we don't know what we're getting for that. But,
well, you know good and well that the food would be good because, you know, our Scott is a gourmet chef. If you've never had the pleasure of eating his cooking, then you have missed out.
We get the white chili.
Yeah, that would be good. Scott's the only person I know that just looks at something and just gets these creative juices flowing of, you know, I think this would be good with that, or that, and he just tries it and sees. And
well, I'm going to tell you something else. You know, I don't, before he goes on to run that hotel, 15 customers a week, you know, Fields down at prime time might take him on. Because he's always talking about that menu and some of his favorites.
And another one of our all-star sponsors there, Phil's Primetime Pizza down there in Chickamauga. Had a cruise in this weekend. Yeah, I saw some of the pictures on Facebook and stuff. Some actually beautiful automobiles. You never had a chance to do one of those cruise ins, and you like cars. I mean, obviously
and somebody asked me this a while back, and I said I'm going to stop you right there. He said, do you say that pizza's all that because they're a sponsor? I said, nope, I wouldn't say that at all. That is some outstanding pizza that's made down there. I said, I tell you what, you go down there, and if you're being honest with me, and I expect you to be honest, if you don't like it, I'll buy it, but you'll like it. I said, but don't. If you say you don't like it, I had to buy it. Don't say I'm going again.
That's right. Yeah, don't let me hear that you're going back. Well, we will call down there sometimes if it's early enough in the evening and we don't have, you know, having two teenage kids and being all over the place with practices and things like that. That's, you know, every now and again when we can, we'll call down there and I'll drive all the way down to Chickamauga and back to get it. And we like the tray is our favorite, which is basically their version of a meat lovers. You know, it's all the different kinds of meat. And I'll usually get a thin and a hand toss both because both of them are delicious. There's nothing on that menu down there that's not good.
I get the Fields Prime Time, and I do a little bit of alteration on it. Take a few things off, put a few things on.
Oh, yeah.
That's still... Again, I told this fella that asked me that. I said no. I said they got great food.
They do, and you know,
whether they sponsor or not, they got great.
Scott and I have gone down there a couple times and done lunch. And, you know, we did a podcast down there one afternoon, did lunch down there, and we did the sandwiches. And Scott got, like, the calzone, and I got, like, the little folded sandwich. And they're just as good as the pizza. I mean, you can't... And again, I mean, we're talking food. I mean, you leave there and just come up the road to Choo Choo.
Well, if you don't know Q... You don't know Choo.
That's right, and I mean,
and again, that both of those places could double their size of their establishment
and still sell out.
And still sell out.
Yeah,
I mean, because every time I go down there to both of them, it's like that's the only two restaurants in Chickamauga because they're both just packed to the rim.
Some friends of ours went down, and they said, we went down to Choo Choo the other night, took your advice, we went down there, and they're like, it was spaghetti night. And I said, well, did you get spaghetti? And they were like, no, we went for barbecue. And I was like, well, okay. And they're like, but seriously, there were people all around us that got the spaghetti, and they're like, that spaghetti looked delicious.
And I think they have fried fish.
They have catfish.
And again, two of the best people that are on our sponsor list, and we got several.
Kevin Martin and Jeff Beagles.
But they love sports, and they
love kids,
and they give back, and they give back, and you can see that, especially in Choo Choo Barco. You see his pictures on the wall, that how long he's gone and
he has
supporting sports.
And I don't know of Jeff to ever say no to anybody when it comes to if it comes to helping out high school, middle school athletics. I don't know that I've ever seen him tell somebody, I don't think I can do that. I mean, every time it's at least, I'll see what I can do. I will try to do something. If I can't do everything, I will at least do this. He's always one of those folks.
Really just good folks.
Just good folks. Well, folks, obviously we're on here to talk sports tonight, and there's a lot going on. I mean, today is the longest auto racing day in the world if you choose to watch all three. And that is, you start early this morning with the Monaco Grand Prix, which is ran in beautiful Monaco, Spain, right on the streets out in front of the coast. We go from there.
They recently, Mr. History Teacher, they recently have had multiple orca whale attacks.
Yes, on boats. Don't know why.
But right off the coast of Monaco.
Right off the coast of Monaco. So we've got that. From there, you move to the Heartland in Indianapolis, Indiana for the Indy 500, which concluded probably about an hour and a half ago. And then this evening, if they still do it this way, and I haven't looked at the schedule, but it is usually the Coca-Cola 600, which is ran at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And so basically in one day of racing, you can watch, I think Scott tallied it up one day that it's something like 1,300 and something miles of racing in one day.
And we had one of our best contests or best events several years ago where we talked about our most iconic sports venues, and we've been covering some of them lately. Starting back in April with Augusta.
Yep.
Coming forward with the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
And now the
Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Three of our teams.
Well, the street course at Monaco was on there as well. We had it. I think it was around number 3 or number 4 or something like that. But we did have that on there as well. Just keep folks abreast of what's going on right now. Bottom of the first, Braves are up with 2 outs. Braves are up 7-0.
Wow, they need
on the Phillies. And
needed to start like that.
Rob and I were talking off camera. Well, actually, let me. My daughter would break my arm if I didn't mention the fact that last night, in very dramatic fashion, the Boston Celtics, with 0.2 seconds left on the clock, got Derek White, grabs a rebound, puts it back up on glass. One of the shortest guys on the court puts it back up on glass for the Celtics to go back up by 1 and force a Game 7.
Hustle award. It was the hustle award because they had no business being there.
Nope.
I mean, with all those big bodies that were down there in the paint, the shortest guy on the court is in the right spot. And now the Celtics have a chance to do something that nobody in NBA history has ever done, and that is come back from an 0-3 deficit. I think they will.
There have been 5 teams, I believe, that have been in the position. None of those 5 have had the game at home. So Boston does get to have the game at home. If you get a Game 7 performance in this series out of Jason Tatum like you got out of the previous series against the Hawks, it could be lights out for the Miami Heat, and we could get a Nuggets-Celtics finals. And nobody thought that the Heat would be where they are in the first place. They didn't have that team all year. Nope.
And the Celtics did. So now the Celtics are going home. When they were down 3-0, they shouldn't have been. and most people
absolutely not. They shouldn't have been.
They were down, and now that's home court advantage, and it's coin toss. And again, the best player on the Miami Heat team,
Jimmy Butler,
really needs to be about a 40-point guy that night in order to beat Celtics.
Well, and they, the
25's not enough.
Barkley made this statement on the NBA report last night on Inside the NBA, and basically what he said is he said, the Heat are a team by committee. They have two really good players in Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, and then they have a bunch of other guys that contribute every night. And he's like, those guys are all going to have to contribute, whereas the Boston Celtics, they're sort of similar in that situation, but Boston has two or three really legitimate superstars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Marcus Smart, even though he's a little long in the tooth, is still good for 10 or 15 points night in, night out.
Denver's going to have a 2-week rest on them.
They are, and
if that means anything, if it does.
And the Joker is playing as good as you could possibly play.
I tell you where that doesn't mean that much to me in baseball.
Yeah.
When there's a layoff, I don't think that behooves the team that's being laid off.
Nope.
But I think in football and basketball, it does.
Well, in baseball,
there's such a timing thing, and if you're not seeing pitching,
if you're not seeing live pitching, unless you're bringing it don't mean a thing. Unless you're bringing one of your minor league prospects up every day in practice to pitch, to your live pitching to your hitters.
That's right.
You can only take so much batting practice. That those 80-something mile an hour sliders and 95 mile an hour fastballs, it don't take much to get behind those. But anyways, going back to the Braves, how many adjectives can you use to describe Ronald Acuna Jr. already this season, and here he is coming off of a torn ACL and looks like $1 million out there every time he takes the field?
Well, he's the Braves' best ball player, and I saw this before the season started. They listed the top 10, what they thought was the top 10 baseball players that were in the MLB right now. Cunha was in the top 10. Now, what I want to point out is this. Cunha was sitting at number 7, and I thought that was a little low. But that was based on last year's. He actually came back from the ACL last year. Didn't quite have as great a year as thought, but he's coming off an injury. This year, you see the difference. He's totally healthy. But the biggest difference in those top 10 guys, Ronald Acuna makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $10-11 million a year. Most of those guys were making 35.
Oh yeah.
To 28. Okay, so he's in the top 10, but you see what a deal they got in him right now? And somewhere down the line, because they certainly don't want to see someday him go to free agency, but somewhere down the line, they're going to have to dress his pay just like the Angels did with Trout.
Oh, yeah.
What the Angels did with Trout was just keep giving him a handsome amount of money so that he wouldn't go free agency.
And Mike Trout just doesn't strike me as that guy that is all in it for the money. I mean, to me, there are, Dan Patrick used to always talk about if he were going to interview young athletes in any sport, the first question he would ask them is, do you love the game? If he was a potential general manager and he was signing a player, do you love the game is the first question that he would ask. And to me, Mike Trout is one of those guys that looks like he would play for free as long as he got to play.
And you might be right about that in that respect. I hate it because he was. Somebody said this a while back that he's Mickey Mantle. Playing on the West Coast, and he was talking about how the East Coast didn't get to see him, and we're in that group. We don't get to see who's been the best ball player over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see that Mickey Mantle-like guy, but he is Mickey Mantle-like.
Because, a 7 o'clock first pitch in California for us, so on this side of the country, is an 11 o'clock start, ish.
And there's been times that the Angels weren't the best team record-wise, so they weren't
so not on TV.
Channel. Nobody was watching.
No, and unless you've got, the direct TV,
Most
baseball package.
Him play.
No,
that's the point that the guy's making. The Mickey Mantle of today's time, nobody's watching.
Yep,
that's what they were saying. Now, Machado from the Padres said a few weeks back that Acuna is Griffey, and that's fairly accurate.
He has some very strong Griffey-like characteristics. I mean,
he's so athletic on the field.
I would definitely agree with. Well, and he just looks graceful, and that's the old thing. The one thing that's always been about Griffey is he never, no matter what he was doing, even when he was running down a fly ball to deep center field or something, he always looked like he was gliding.
Oh, absolutely. He made it look at ease.
Yeah,
it's something that I've seen many times, and we see this, and I think it's fun to do when you see people put down their all-time team. Rusty, I rarely ever see those teams that are compiled that have Ken Griffey in their outfield, because there's so many other names that pop up, but talent-wise, I don't know that anybody surpassed the kid.
I mean, to me,
that's what they called him, the kid.
The kid. I mean, in a lot of the
Willie Mays in his moment, Mickey Mantle in his moment,
gosh,
but certainly probably the likes of Bonds and Ruth and Aaron and some did not have Ken Griffey's athleticism.
No, his speed,
May's probably in part of his career.
And the thing about Griffey too is, you look back on his career and you think, if he'd stayed in Seattle and stayed healthy, where would he be? I mean, when he went to the Reds, that was one of the worst baseball fields in all of the in MLB. That outfield beat him to death.
Yeah, and then they came along and built
and then they built a great stadium after that.
Certainly a bandbox, because everybody hits home runs.
Yeah, but I mean, those first couple of years in Cincinnati took years off his career.
I would probably agree with that.
And the bad part about that is, or I would even go as far as to say, there were rumors those years that the Braves were seriously considering making him an offer. And I'm like, you put him in that Atlanta lineup, which would have put him in there protected by guys like Chipper Jones and Ron Gant, Dave Justice, some of those guys. Had he been inserted in that 90s Braves lineup, how many home runs would he have hit in Fulton County Stadium?
Well, and let me test your memory banks here. Before the Braves landed Maddox, they had somebody else that they were trying to aim.
Barry Bonds. Yeah.
And it got niched on the Pirates side. The Braves were all in, and why wouldn't they be? But the Pirates probably sitting over and saying, "Hold on a minute, this is a Hall of Famer, or should be a Hall of Famer, and it's another story. But this is a Hall of Famer. We got to get something back."
Well, and then on the backside of that, the Braves are sitting there trying to deal for Bonds. And all of a sudden you look over and here is Greg Maddux out here in free agency, and that first contract they got him for was a steal compared to what it would have been years later.
And as great as Bonds was, it's hard to say the Braves didn't
get the better end. Yeah, I mean,
because they got what they didn't have.
You had with Greg Maddux added to that already strong rotation. It never mattered who the fifth starter was. The Braves were always going to go out there for at least 3 straight days. They were going to beat your eyeballs in with pitching because they could run Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz at you.
And if Scott was here, he would say this because it got him off being a Braves fan.
It did, yeah.
Cubs fan. He always talked, and he was right about this, that the clutch hitting that was necessary to win the World Series. Because World Series games, playoff games in general, are
different.
Are not 10-11 ball games.
Yeah.
They're 3-2, 2-1, 4-3.
Yeah.
That's the type of ball game it is because you're facing the best 3 on the staff.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going 5.
No, we're going 3-man rotation.
Okay, so that clutch hitting didn't come often enough to help out that tremendous pitching because they were always in those low-scoring ball games. But that's playoff baseball.
Yeah. Well, and I always go back. Me and Stump had this argument not really argument. We agreed wholeheartedly on this, and we would ask folks talking baseball, if it come right down to it, you were in the playoffs and you had to choose which Brave starter that you wanted to start the game for you. Who did you want? Did you want Smoltz or did you want Maddox? And I'd choose Smoltz every time. Smoltz had ice water running through his veins in the playoffs, and Maddox always struggled. You can go back and look at Greg Maddox's playoff record, and it was a lot comparable to Clayton Kershaw. During the regular season, he was unbeatable. But during the playoffs, and a lot of times, part of the reason why he struggled in the playoffs was exactly what you said a minute ago. You can't play to win games 11-10 in the World Series because you're going to face, remember that Arizona team the Braves faced that one year? That was Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson back-to-back. Mm-hmm. It didn't really matter who they ran out there on the third day. You were already beat up from facing those two guys the first 2 days. Mm-hmm. And, you go against the Minnesota Twins and you face Jack Morris. You go against the Toronto Blue Jays and you're facing, back then that was Dave Stewart and Roger Clemens. No, Clemens wasn't there yet. That was Stewart and, was it El Duque was on that?
You talking about the A's?
No, the Blue Jays.
Blue Jays.
That was, golly, who all was on that? That was a great pitching staff as well. But, that gets into the Braves, and my argument with the Braves has always been that Bobby Cox was too much of a player's manager. There were a lot of times when guys should have been yanked and he let them stay an inning too long. Or there were other moves. I mean, let's be honest, man. You're a lifelong Braves fan just like I am. I can bring up 5 or 6 key moments in series that are the dumbest personnel moves we could have possibly made. Who the hell brings Charlie Lebrand in to face Kirby Puckett, who at the time was the hottest hitter in Major League Baseball, in the 9th inning, up by 1, and that's who you bring to face Kirby Puckett?
We're gonna throw up an 82 mile an hour
junk baller.
That is true. What bothers me even more so about the game right now than then and if Coach Greg Payne was here, it'd be a good conversation, but I think he would still be shrugging his shoulders, because what I don't see often enough, no matter the situation, no matter how important that playoff game is, I don't see managers asking guys to do things at the plate that make all the sense in the world, and it's constantly swing away, swing away.
Like bunt.
When putting down a bunt and moving up a runner is what, at every level that you coached at before, Coach told you that's what you should be doing.
Or a sac fly.
But now you're still back in the thing. Well, somebody's going to hit me a 3-run homer, and I'm going to look like Mr. Smarty Pants. And I don't know why that's gotten so bad about that. And even when the game comes down to it, the crunch time that the manager has the ability to make that call, doesn't make that call. Make that call.
No. I'm going to say something. I'm going to throw it out there. Scott was here. He'd probably shake his head in disgust. But I've been...
He's sitting on a tarmac right now getting to do that.
But I have been to 2 Braves games in the last month.
You're right. You have been.
The first...
And ain't that a beautiful place to go? It's just a fun place
Love
to go.
it.
I wished it was 40 minutes closer.
We did maybe 4 or 5 games in the entire time that Turner Field was open, and we've been to 4 or 5 games in the last 2 years.
And I don't know the mileage, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.
It's an hour and 30 minutes.
But I'm talking about from Turner to Truist.
Oh,
I think it's 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah, but it's like 45 minutes because it's Atlanta.
And it's that much more aggravation too, Rusty. That other 5-6 miles down the road to get in the heart of Spaghetti Junction there.
Well, Malfunction Junction, as my dad calls it.
Of Atlanta and versus where it was.
Well, here's my controversial statement. I like the pitch counter.
You like the...
I like it. I'm sorry.
Well, it does move the game up.
I like it.
It does move the game up.
But when you watch the game, it doesn't seem that much different. It doesn't feel like it's moving it that much faster. What it does is takes away the ability of a guy like, Mike Hargrave that used to manage the Cleveland Indians that they called the human rain delay. You know, it takes away the ability of a guy to stand there and hack his cleats and fix his gloves and scratch his ass and fix his hat and change his glasses before he gets back in the box.
I agree with all that. I agree with all that. What I don't like to see happen, and I have seen it happen a few times, and it's going to happen some more, and it probably even in more important games, when an official, an umpire, think about what they now, what all they got to look at.
Yes.
Pay attention to a clock. Before they weren't.
And I know where you're going with that.
And that when you have to make that call over something that's so important, and that's what's going to determine.
Well, I think they'll, you know, I hope to see that, like everything else in sports, we tweak things as we go along. That we're not going to let, you know, I mean, we're not going to let championships change hands over a technicality over 3 seconds or something like that.
That's what I'm concerned about.
But I will say, as a fan, it makes the game more enjoyable to go down there and watch when, you know, there are a lot of people that would not go to games through the week because, you know,
how late it would take.
I got to get up and go to work in the morning.
Sure.
You know, this is going to open that up, and it's going to benefit baseball in the long run.
So you've been to two.
I've been to two.
I haven't been to any. So you've got, as a fan, you've got to sit there and watch the game progress a little better.
Yes.
And take 35, 45 minutes off a game.
You're talking, I mean, we watched the Braves and the Astros about a month and a half ago, and that game took just shy of 4 hours, 3 hours, 45 minutes, something like that. Went down Thursday night to watch them play the Phillies. That game took a little over 3 hours.
But there's been some games that have been just over
2 hours and something. Yeah, I mean,
of course, that's pitchers going out there and
you get a couple of. I mean, let's be honest, man. I went down there one time. Me and some friends and my dad went down there and watched Greg Maddux throw a 2-hit gem against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that whole game lasted 2 hours and 8 minutes.
So moving it forward today, that would have been a 135.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, exactly. I mean, that game would have been over with in no time. But it really,
I would have been begging for a doubleheader.
I just don't think that it has taken anything away from it. Now, on the backside of that, I would say that Major League Baseball is going to have to look and they're going to have to be cost conscious of some of it, because we're hitting a stretch now where I can afford to take my family to a ball game. Okay? 4 tickets, and we took Jonathan's little girlfriend with us, and Lulu was going to take a friend with her, so we bought 6 tickets. We paid around $30 or $40 a piece for them. It was bobblehead night. Unfortunately for us, we didn't get there early enough because they only gave 15,000 out. So we weren't within the first 15,000 because it was Outcast Bobble Night, and everybody wanted one.
You were there that night.
Yeah, so we went down for that. But we went to Chick-fil-A at the stadium. Okay? We bought 4 chicken sandwiches, a chicken wrap, 2 orders of fries, and 6 Cokes. And it was $118. $118 for the same Chick-fil-A that I can get down here on Battlefield Parkway and buy.
Guys, folks, what you think so funny is Rusty's expression on his face as he's saying that number. it's like he got robbed.
I mean, you know, $118 for Chick-fil-A. And don't get me wrong, I love Chick-fil-A. It's the Lord's chicken, and I appreciate every ounce of it. But for $118, it better be singing to me. I mean, you know,
you ain't in a Wahoo.
No, and that's where this all worries me.
Well, and again, as that game gets shortened, and the beer sales go down, the concession sales go down, does that where somebody in ownership says, "Hold on a minute"? Hold on a minute. I voted on what?
Yeah. What was it I voted on? But I mean, you go around that stadium right now, and I mean, a 20-ounce tall boy cheap beer, Miller Lite, Michelob Ultra, $14. A premium beer, $16, $17 for one.
You gotta be cut off by the 17th.
And you can't, and I mean, in this day and age, with the speeding up of the game, that 20-ounce beer, unless you're just cranking that boy right up.
Well, you can always take your family a six-pack over there to the
Chick-fil-A and drop another $100, man. Drop another 100 spot. But that's wherein we get. I can go down here to Chattanooga. I can go down to the Lookouts on a Tuesday, or I think it's Thursday night. They do $2 beer night. And you go down there, and it's $2 12-ounce beers. It costs you, $8 or $10 to get in. You're watching AA baseball, which is, really one step below the pros, because those are typically the kids that go on to the pros.
A lot of those guys that get to AA.
Yeah, AA is where you
sorted for the majors.
AAA is that's more your rehab assignments. That's more your,
It can be, sometimes it can turn into be your lifers in the minor
leagues. Lifers in the minor leagues. That's what that is. AA is where your future major leaguers are.
Yeah.
And so you're watching a great product for half the price, and that's the part that worries me for Major League Baseball. The time aspect is, that's here or there. They got to be careful, and the NFL does too, and the NBA does as well. All these sports have got to realize that you're taking professional sports, which is something that everyone loves. No matter what income level that you live at, everyone loves professional sports and everyone loves collegiate sports. If you eventually price that out for people, you're not going to have people going to watch live.
But here's some things that challenge those thoughts, because we see this, and we know that championship games and Super Bowls, we know all those are precious moments,
and that's understood.
But Lord of mercy, the pricing that goes on in that, but yet they're full.
Yep.
If you don't want to pay it, somebody else will.
An infield paddock seat or pass to the Kentucky Derby. The last time that I looked that up, could go as high as $55,000 and $60,000 for one ticket.
Just be in the infield of
the Kentucky Derby. 55 to it's shoulder to shoulder down there. I mean, that's the who's who. That's where everybody is. That's where all the stars and celebrities and that's where they go. We looked at, there is a F1 race coming to Las Vegas, and they have a Bellagio package. That Bellagio package is like $70,000, and it gets you like into the race. It gets you a meet and greet and some things like that. But you're still spending $80,000 per person for a race ticket, and that you wonder why people aspire to be owners of major league franchises. Well, I mean, there you go. How much money do you think Jerry Jones makes off just owning that stadium alone? Not just the Cowboys. I mean, all the concerts, the monster truck rallies, AMA dirt motocross, basketball games.
We snickered at this when he put that up. We snickered at this that he also set aside everything in the form of parking was here. Mm-hmm. And I think the number was either $75 to $100 for parking.
Yeah.
Now, we already sold the ticket.
Yeah.
We know the concession's coming. We just sold a $100 parking pass to get in here too.
If you go to a Braves game tomorrow,
I think it's $75. We're going to start.
It's probably $75. If you go to a Braves game tomorrow, a parking pass will run you, most of them will run you somewhere around $30 or $40, give or take. But if you want to park in that Delta lot, which is right across from the third base gate, which is the closest one to the park, That's $150 for that parking pass. And now you walk right out of it, walk right inside. Now, if you got one of the boxes or you are in one of the suites, obviously the parking pass comes along with it.
With all the good that's down there, and it's twice the facility, twice the setup that Turner Field was, all the above. And I really don't even think that they could have accomplished what they have at Turner Field. I don't think the land would have been able to do what they wanted to do. But still, the parking down there is not perfect.
No, it's
some spots. You just mentioned one of them, but on a higher dollar fee.
But it's spread out. It's instead of like in a normal, like you go to County Stadium in Oakland, you've got the stadium and all the parking lots around. Like going to Disney World, you got all the parking lots are right there. You can take a tram up to the front to the stadium itself. This is more like you got the stadium and about 3 lots right nearby, but then another 3 or 4 that are out further, and there's even some, and then
there's one there as you're coming in, and we parked there before, but yet you can't go into there till after 5 o'clock.
Yes,
that parking place is for people working.
Yep, it's for people that work in the building.
So they use that, but yet in an odd style.
Well, and then you've got there are the places down around the park too, like Taco Bell and KFC, and all the restaurants will sell 3 or 4 of their parking spots. In their parking lot, they've got 50 parking spots, and they'll set aside 10 of them and charge $35 a piece, and people park in them because they're right there within walking distance.
So as good as Truist is down there, and the battery and all the stuff they've done, parking's still not perfect.
It ain't perfect, but
it's and it can be a trial and error. You don't know where you're going.
But the difference in Truist and Turner is that when I leave out of the stadium at Truist and I've got to walk 5 blocks to get to my parking lot, I'm a lot safer walking 5 blocks to get to my parking lot at Truist than I ever was at Turner.
Well, then you're also 20 plus minutes ahead of schedule from what can be down there.
Then if I'm downtown because if I'm downtown at Turner and I leave a game, I've got to fight all the way out of downtown Atlanta.
You're going to fight it, and from Truist, on a worst case scenario, and it would take construction or bad wreck, you're going to fight it back to the next couple of exits, but that's based on some event. Down in Turner, it's automatic.
Oh yeah,
it's automatic.
Well, and it's the same way at Mercedes. I mean, Mercedes is a great stadium, but I mean, it's
still in the same spot.
It's in the heart of downtown, and it's in that area of Atlanta where there's a lot of weirdly shaped little streets. There's little one-way passages here and there. There's red lights everywhere. There's but the new stadium, and like we said, talking about the lookouts, I mean, if they build anything similar, which is what the plans call for, if they build anything similar to what they're talking about, it's going to be great.
Yeah, and you're going to see that area that's been ignored for many a decade. You're going to see that area change because of it.
Oh, yeah.
Just like we saw that same area change where AT&T Field went. So I think once that takes place, because what was done in the beginning by Frank Burke was necessary. Frank Burke was in the corner. He said, do I build another place brand new, or do I try to patch this thing up again with the same kind of money?
Well, and
so he made the right decision. He did make the right decision.
Yeah.
But now time has passed, and that's still a doable part. But we want better. Somebody wants better, so it can be better.
Well, there's your perfect example there of parking not being ideal.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, that's a beautiful location of where they put that stadium. They should have faced it in the opposite direction, but it's a beautiful stadium.
They had to. Well, they did what they did.
But parking's awful. Always has been.
So we know that parking alone is going to be better.
Oh,
can't
Lord,
be worse. Okay.
No, and I mean, you think of,
and the lookouts didn't even get that parking. They can arrange it here that they can.
They can. Yeah, they don't get any of it where it's at right now. They don't get any of it, and that's
tragic too, because that's revenue that they could really use.
Well, congratulations go out this weekend to Silverdale.
The Silverdale Seahawks, the girls, won their second state championship in the history of the school. Got one about in 2018, beating the team that had been their nemesis for a while, and then. Again, the Baylor Red Raiders, congratulations, 8 in a row.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I asked somebody this the other day, and we think so many times that Baylor and GPS has met for a state championship in Murfreesboro. They could be down in Warner Park. Okay, now it's CCS. I just scratch my head sometimes and wonder, what's the rest of the state doing with softball? That it's all here in Chattanooga. I mean, give me a break there. Why is it like that?
Well, and it makes you wonder how many kids, because of the situation, like at Baylor has boarding students. How many students are coming from other parts of Tennessee because they want to be a part of that Baylor dynasty?
Well,
I mean, there's nothing else that you can call it but a dynasty. Baylor, the Baylor school in softball, in golf, in baseball, in swimming, in any,
and finally got the monkey off the back
in football. I mean, the amount of,
you mentioned wrestling.
Crazy, I mean, there is a reason why a few years ago the ESPN named Baylor Titletown USA for this era. I mean, there's just a lot of winning going on there.
The baseball team stumbled towards the end of the year, and I was talking to one of the granddaddies of that program, and I said, you played as good as anybody in the state for 92% of the year, and then the last 8% you just fell on hard times, and you didn't get to go to the state. Didn't even make it there. The team that won it, Knox Catholic, they actually put Baylor out. But if you'd have been talking back in anytime in April and March when nobody could beat Baylor to speak of, and then all of a sudden they can't win at the end of the year.
Well, and I wanted to make an announcement too. I saw an old friend of the show, friend of ours, Michael Brown, is been named head baseball coach at Brentwood Academy.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that.
Talk about being handed the keys to the kingdom.
Several years ago, I caught the Brentwood teams that would come in town and face the McCaulleys and the Baylors, and back when McCauley, in my opinion, had the best baseball tournament at the beginning.
The McCauley Invitational.
It was.
Yeah,
it was
the
best one.
I agree.
And because the talent that was pulled into it, even some of the North Georgia's better schools participated in it as well. And in many years,
what was the one they used to do at Hickson and all? Was that the Scenic City Invitational or something? Is that what it was?
Well, they ended up changing it to, I think, the Wildcat Classic.
Wildcat Classic, yeah. That one was pretty good, too.
Of course, Ooltewah had one. Central had one.
But that Baylor Invitational just...
McCauley.
Yeah, McCauley Invitational,
It really was. It was the best one.
I agree.
It kind of faded over time for whatever reasons. And Coach Chris Richardson ran the program back then. And there was some effort. When you're going to put the best tournament together, you got to reach out to people.
Yeah.
And you're reaching out to people back in the fall prior to the spring. And having those teams come in.
Well, and that's always, I think Michael's done a good job everywhere he's gone and coached.
And he coached.
He was here
was it Father Ryan up there?
He was at Pope John Paul. He was at Ridgeland here. Then he went to Lakeview. Then he went to Pope John Paul and has been up there for a number of years.
What's he been doing in between John Paul and
he was still there. He was.
Okay.
I don't think he stopped. He may have taken a year or two off, but now he comes back, or he will be at Brentwood Academy. Obviously, Brentwood's going to have a little more clout than Pope John Paul II. He's probably going to be able to get a little bit better athlete. than he would.
You might think it.
You would think.
You would think it.
So be interesting to see if he can go up there and turn that program around. And that's Brentwood Academy. You know good and well that the expectations up there are as high gets.
We got some connections. As you know, the young lady that we had on our show a few years ago, the freshman, she wins her 9th straight state title.
Oh, wow.
This past week in shot. And
yeah.
She's got a scholarship to Ole Miss, which is one of the highest throwing schools in the country. Steve Wade, who used to be a Tyner product, Vanderbilt product, who was her coach, and he was sharing with me the other day that the University of Alabama's coaching staff was on campus looking at one quarterback that plays for Brentwood, which happens to be the grandson, if I understand it, of the former head coach that was up there for as many years as he was.
Oh, okay.
All those state championships.
Well, I mean, Brentwood Academy, for better or worse, they're always going to be famous / infamous for the public-private split.
They're the reason.
They're the reason. I mean, I have friends. Obviously, I was not, and you were not either. We were not doing sports media at that time. I have friends that lived up in that area, and they remember that state title year. That's what really caused the whole stink. And they tell me that they were beating people like 80-0. I mean, they were just going out there and crushing everybody. And the ironic part of all of it was after the split, Brentwood didn't win a state championship for a number of years after that. So we're always we've seen a bazillion good athletes come out of there, though. I mean,
flat.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's the
old football coach.
Yeah, that had won so many.
And then Ralph was up there for a while.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say this about Ralph. And he's a smart coach and one of the better coaches we got in the area. That's a given. Going to be a Hall of Fame coach soon someday. But he picked up on a plan up there.
Yeah,
he picked up on some things they did or was interested in trying to do, and brought some of that back. And implemented it with the Blue Tornado.
Well, and
of course, you got to get the people at the top to agree to that, and they have.
It's no different than look at how many coaches have had tutelage under Nick Saban at Alabama, and then gone on to success at other places. Some of them have taken what they've learned and done amazing with it, and others have taken what they learned and kind of ho-hum. Expectations were a little too high, this, that, or the other. But when you've got a good product in place, it really doesn't matter who the assistants are. You can plug them in and they'll go right on.
But let me say this too about the Colin Baylor staffs, and they both. And of course, we know the new coach over at Baylor, and he was in the state. Take head coaching out of it. They have outstanding assistant coaches.
Oh yeah,
both staffs are excellent.
Because how many paid assistants do they have? I mean,
well, and we stand on sidelines for 20+ years now, and I watch staffs operate, and sometimes I know why that sometimes this team might be struggling, but may not have the talent. But I'm seeing some chaos on the sidelines too here. But those two staffs are just really good.
Well, when you
and credit those head coaches because you can't do it all.
No, and when you got, those are two staffs in Chattanooga that they have folks that only come there to be on that coaching staff and are paid to be on that coaching staff.
That's true. It is a little. It's a night and day.
It is when you have
totally night and day to
any public school,
to Hamilton County.
Yes, absolutely,
close. You
absolutely.
Can't compare them.
No, you compare them to
not the personnel either. It's the formula.
It's the formula
that you even go about.
When you got Baylor McCauley, whose coaching staff includes an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and then you got a linebackers coach and a defensive backs coach and a quarterbacks coach and a quality control coach and an equipment manager
and Hamilton County's got a head coach and
two assistants. Yeah.
And the rest of them are
volunteer. Yeah, are volunteer people that come in and help. The stuff like that is what makes all the difference in the world. And those schools like that, they just have more. And there's nothing. That's not not here, there, the other. It just is what it is. I mean, that is just the way that is. Well, folks, that's going to put us around the 50-minute mark. I appreciate you getting on here and listening with us tonight. Ringo, Rob, and I could sit here and shoot crap off for another 5 hours because that's just what we do. But Scott will be back with us next week as well. We've got some stuff coming up to talk about as we move forward into the summer. We still got we still hadn't talked about, and we'll do it when Scott comes back next week, but our most famous tables on television shows that you can think of. Now, what are the most famous tables that come to mind when you think of your favorite television shows? Give that a thought or two and come up with your own list to compare to what ours is. And when we come back on next week, we will share ours.
It could be a coffee table,
dining room, a bar, any number of things. A table. But, folks, we love you. We appreciate you listening with us, and we'll see you guys next week.